Good morning, sir. Today I'll be discussing a serious and often overlooked issue, which is about child labor behind global brands' best-selling perfumes. This presentation is brought to you by Elizabeth, myself, the Singh, and El Badras. The perfume industry is a billion-dollar global market that continues to grow at a rapid pace. In 2022 alone, over 3,000 new fragrances were launched. At the heart of many of these perfumes is a key ingredient, which is the jasmine flower. The jasmine flower plays a very vital role in the perfume industry, and Egypt stands as one of the leading producers of this precious flower. The person who started the industry in Egypt is named Ahmed Fakri, and it all started in the year 1960. This jasmine flower blooms after sunset. In order to catch this fragrance, the flower needs to be picked before it withers in the sun's heat. The, the jasmine season in Egypt lasts only about 6 months each year, making it a time sensitive crop. For every Egyptian families, jasmine harvesting is their main source of income. However, the work of labor, the work is labor intensive and low paying, with entire families, including children, participating just to make ends meet. Slide 3. Importance of jasmine industry in Egypt. The jasmine industry is not just economically significant, it is essential to rural employment in Egypt. High-end global perfume brands rely heavily on Egyptian jasmine for its quality and fragrance. The reliance creates a demand that keeps the industry running, but unfortunately, the financial benefits rarely trickles down to the workers. Families in rural areas continue to depend on this labor-intensive work in order to survive. Slide 4. Jasmine's worth in Egypt. To give some context, 1 kilogram of jasmine flower in Egypt is worth about 45 Egyptian pounds, which is roughly $1.40. To earn just $1, it takes four about 4 people working together to collect enough flowers. The parents of these children take them to pluck these flowers as early as 5 a.m. in the morning. The wages they get from plucking the flowers are ridiculously low. After plucking the flowers, it is then carried to the factory, which is then transferred to the perfume industries. This economic pressure is a key reason why child labor becomes a necessity for many families. Children are brought into the field not by choice but out of sheer necessity for survival. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. So I am here to discuss the reasons why children are involved in this industry. So there are four reasons that we have identified, and first one is due to poverty. So most of the families in Egypt struggles with low income, which leaves them no choice but to involve their children just to make more money and survive their daily expenses. The second reason is lack of education. So, due to poverty, some families can't send their children to school, preventing them to get proper education, which is the reason why most of the children are stuck in this kind of situation. The third reason is seasonal work seasonal nature of work. So jasmine only blooms for 6 months, and most families see it as a quick way to earn money. That's why they involve all members of their families that are capable in harvesting jasmine. And then last reason is low wages and cheap labor demand. So some companies like Machalico prefers hiring children because they can be paid less than adults. And this is an advantage for them because they don't get to spend a lot of money just for leave. Now I'm going to discuss the impacts of child labor. So the first impact is education disruption. Child laborers often miss out their school due to working long hours just to help their families gain more money that will help them survive their daily expenses. Another impact is physical and mental health issues. The best example for this one is when Basmala developed a severe allergies due to long exposure in jasmine harvesting. And then the third impact is risk of exploitation and abuse. So Egypt's government has a poor law enforcement, which makes children an easy target for exploitation and abuse by some of the companies. And then the last impact is social isolation. So since most of the children are involved in this industry, it causes them to miss out social interactions like friendships, being with other people, which can cause a great impact in their lives. Now let's go to legal and ethical issues. So Egypt knows that child labor is very rampant in their country. That's why they made laws like Law Number 12 of 2003, which prevents companies from hiring children under 15 years old, as well as International Labor Organization Number 182, which aims to eliminate the worst kind of child labor. However, due to poor law enforcement, Egypt is unable to lessen and control companies from hiring children under 15 years old. That's why child labor stays as a major issue in their country. Now, according to the documentary video, this is the supply chain of jasmine industry. So it starts from the independent pickers who gathers the flower from midnight until 8 or 9 in the morning, and then they will sell these flowers to the collection point, which who buys their flowers for 45 Egyptian pound or $1.40 per kilo. And then from collection point, they will transport the flowers to the major factories operating in their country like A Factory and Co., Hashem Brothers, and Machalico, who extracts the oil from the flowers. And then after extracting the oil, these factories will transport the oils to the international fragrance companies like Simrise, Givaudan, Firmenich, and IFF, who produces the fragrance, the jasmine fragrance. And then after that, finally, they will sell this fragrance to the two major master of industry, which is L'Oreal and Estee Lauder. So that's it on my side. The next slides will be presented by my co-presenter. Thank you.
My name is Dilpreet Singh. My student ID is 10337031. I'm going to talk about global brands fail to address child labor. Indirect supply chain. Many global brands do not directly source jasmine from farms, but they rely on multiple intermediaries, making it difficult to trace labor conditions. Lack of transparency. Due to the long supply chain, companies often claim that they are unaware of unethical labor practices. Ethical versus non-ethical brands. Some brands prioritize ethical sourcing and sustainability while others ignore the issue to maintain low cost and high profits. Actions implemented by government. France Duty of Vigilance Law 2017 requires large companies to identify and prevent human rights violations, including child labor, in their supply chains. Companies must create and implement vigilance plans to ensure ethical sourcing. Failure to comply can result in legal action and financial penalties. European Parliament Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, April 2024, expands corporate accountability for human rights and environmental violations. France companies to assess, prevent, and mitigate risk related to child labor and other unethical labor practices. Applies to large companies operating in the EU even if they source materials from outside Europe. Lessons learned. Child labor remain a hidden crisis. Child labor is often underreported, making it difficult to fully grasp the scale of the problem. Many children are forced into labor in informal sectors or remote areas where monitoring is not possible. Economic hardships drive child exploitation. Poverty and the need for income often push families to send their children to work. This economic desperation can make children vulnerable to exploitation as they are seen as an affordable source of labor. Weak law enforcement allow exploitation to continue. Inadequate or poorly enforced labor laws make it easier for companies to exploit the children without facing consequences. Even when law exists, a lack of enforcement or oversight can perpetuate the cycle. Global brands play a role, for better or worse. Large multinational companies can either contribute to the problem through their supply chains or help mitigate it through responsible sourcing and stronger labor practices. Their influence, both positive and negative, shape the way children's child labor is addressed globally. Conclusion. Jasmine pickers in Egypt are often forced to involve their children in work because they are living in poverty. This problem is made worse by weak laws that don't do enough to stop it. Big global brands, even though they make a lot of money, don't seem to care about the impact their actions have on the lives of these workers and their families. There is a need for stronger laws and more responsible actions from both the government and companies to, to protect their vulnerable people.